All right. Well, we'll see if anybody pops in, but this is kind of a new thing. I do this with Sean Hadley at the Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan Office, and it's gotten a lot of positive reviews. Basically, just kind of no formal agenda, not a big class. I'll come in with a few prepared topics, but really just kind of discussing things, real estate, related, mortgage related as well in many cases. Um, just kind of a fireside chat, so to say, so kind of see how everyone's doing. Um, Today, I want to talk about taxes. We're running into this quite a bit right now with people that have purchased in Geauga County.
Mm-hmm.
In Geauga County last year, they did their, every 3 years, there's an appraisal and a reassessment of value. And, in turn, as value goes up, so does tax rates. So we've run into a lot of people that have seen significant jumps in their tax bills. Geauga County did cap it I believe it was capped to either a certain max percentage or a certain number amount, so that the taxes wouldn't, go up too dramatically fast. That being said, we had a lot of people that got increases on their tax bills, which then, if they have mortgages where the taxes are escrowed, they see an increase in their mortgage payment. And a lot of people get very worried. They think, oh, I must have had an adjustable rate, or something happened. In many cases, or in every case, really, it's just that the taxes went up, and now we need to collect more for their future tax bill. So I wanted to talk a bit about what that looks like, because Cuyahoga County is doing their reassessment in July and August.
Mm-hmm.
The new tax bills for Cuyahoga County will come out the beginning of 2025. This is the first appraisal since 21. There's going to be a lot of increases on there, especially because there's all these marketable sales that they're going to be able to tie to every community all across Cuyahoga County. And because, unlike Geauga County, it's not going to be capped. I mean, we could see people with 25 or 30% increases in their tax bills. And if you're talking about a neighborhood like Cleveland Heights or Shaker Heights, that could be huge. That could be several thousands of dollars, just all of a sudden showing up on their next tax bill. So I wanted to run through kind of the math on what it looks like, and I will do a little share screen here. Just pull up. Let's do the notepad. It'll be easiest this way. Perfect. So let's say somebody has a tax bill, I don't know, let's say it's $3,400 a year right now. This is in 2024. And let's say it goes up even just $600 to $4,000 taxes in 2025, and beyond. That $600 increase is going to hit their next tax bill. So whenever we know it's coming, the escrow company, the mortgage service company is going to pay it out of the escrow account. The problem is before we were only collecting enough to pay a $3,400 tax bill, not a $4,000 tax bill. So that extra $600, they'll pay it, but it's like you overdrafted your checking account, more or less. There's no fees or anything for doing it, but they are going to bump your payment up $50 a month to account for it so that it gets paid back in the next year. So you're going to see a $50 increase in payment for the escrow shortage. But we also have a tax bill. We know that the next tax bill coming up is probably going to be that high as well, right?
Yep, so I was just going to ask you that. What do they do?
We increase it another $50 to cover for the future tax bill. So even though their taxes really only went up $50 a month, for the next year, it's going to be $100 more until they pay that shortage back.
Yeah.
Now, that's what hits people really hard and freaks them out is they don't understand because of the taxes being paid in arrears here in Northeast Ohio that there's a shortage and we need to collect enough for next tax bill. So they think they're getting double charged.
Right.
The reality is that shortage might be $600. They can go online, go to their mortgage servicer, call their mortgage servicer, and just pay the $600 shortage off at one-time payment cash, and that'll bring them current on their escrow account. They still, moving forward, are going to have a $50 increase in their bill. That's going to be moving forward, likely forever, because when do taxes ever go down? That's going to cover all the future tax bills. So I've been kind of telling everybody, hey, if you're looking for a good reason to call past clients, this is an excellent, hey, just a heads up, guys. We know this is happening. Cuyahoga County's doing it in July and August. We don't know what the numbers are going to look like, but if you have questions, let us know. Talk to your loan officer or a loan officer about what this is going to look like for you. When those tax bills come out, they'll have time to kind of scramble and prepare. That being said, if I remember back to when this happened 3 years ago, we had a ton of people that they were listing their homes because their tax bills went up more than they were willing to stomach, and they were,
Yeah.
heading to Portage County or getting outside of Cuyahoga County because the taxes were too high. So I think it's worth noting that this is coming. It's imminent. That I think it's kind of a failing on the county by not putting a cap on these because some of these areas, I mean, Solon included, Mike Lane, I mean, what do you think home values in Solon on average have gone up over the last 3 years?
Actually, I would want to say in the last 3 years, whatever was 250 is 350 now.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be updated. It's so
Yeah.
pathetic.
Yeah.
It
So
is.
I mean, that is, let's say, a 30% increase, a little more than
At
that.
least. At least.
Yeah. So if everybody's tax bill jumps up, now Solon's not nearly as high as like Shaker Heights or Cleveland Heights, but still, I mean, some people are going to be shocked when that tax bill comes out. So
It will be. And that's what we're noticing. We live in Walton Hills, and our tax bill 3 years ago was 4,000, about 4,500. Now it's 6,100.
yeah, it's
And
crazy.
and do I have like a huge house? I do not. Do I have a house that I could turn around and sell right now and make some awesome equity? I do. Where am I going?
Right.
I sound like the typical buyer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Chris, let me ask you this. Do you find that I don't know. I'm wondering if it's not partially the realtor and the title company's fault that the taxes aren't a little clearer because in the MLS, it might not have the right tax rate in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're going and looking, and you'll really see this at the end of the year. They don't have the updated rate because they can't. There's six. You know what? It goes back to the people that don't get that homestead exemption off, that are listing a house and putting it back on the market so that the first time home buyer or second, you know what I'm saying,
Mhm.
that needs to be incorporated back in again. And sometimes they forget. And like in my situation, it would be about $350 or $60 a year. Now that breaks down to a little bit every month, but the fact is somebody's got to pay it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
You know,
thinking a lot about people that paid cash as well. And they were
you're
like,
right.
okay, I'm buying it cash, no big deal, whatever. I have a tax bill every 6 months, not a big deal. All of a sudden, that bill's $1,000 more than it would normally be. I sure hope you
Yes.
put some money aside from that, or you're going to be needing to, pull from retirement or something.
Yeah,
It's certainly a shocking number, and I think it wouldn't be so crazy if we didn't have the wild amount of appreciation that we've had over the last several years.
I know.
Um, if it was houses are just going up annually, yeah, okay, your taxes went up, but it's not that crazy. This is going to be a stark jump. So,
It is. And I'm looking at houses now that were 3 years ago, just looked at this house. 3 years ago list, it's coming into the office. It's not my listing. They paid 475 and they're going to be listing it for 700.
whew, how long
And
ago did they buy it?
3 years ago.
Wow.
And they did a little updating, don't get me wrong, but it's not like it has new bathrooms. It's not a brand new finished basement. The basement was already finished. The backyard's pretty, but if you're going to put hardscape in and you're going to plan to get $20,000 in hardscape back again in 3 years, you're just not going to do that because not everybody cares about a built-in kitchen.
Yeah.
I love them. I think it's great. Wish I had one, but I'm not sure that I would want to not only overpay, but pay all those extra taxes as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to get factored in to people's decision making. And that's what's tough. It's
Yes.
already a tight market. It's
Yes.
already not super affordable for first time home buyers or people lower income.
No.
Now we're going to be pulling updated taxes whenever we're qualifying people for these homes. And unless they're all getting a big pay increase next year, they're
Yeah.
going to be able to afford less than they did before.
Now,
So,
do you warn them, Chris, that this is happening?
yeah, yeah, I let
Good.
people know. Yeah, it. We're kind of waiting it out right now. I mean, I'm mentioning it to everybody just because I want to make sure people know.
Yeah.
But it's happening in July and August.
Yeah.
We don't really know what it'll look like. I mean, hopefully it's not as dramatic as were our worst fears, but yeah,
But it could be.
it could be. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I did hear about it. I just didn't know. I'm glad I know now how you would handle that. So what you're saying is if somebody, like say myself, I noticed that huge increase, I should call my mortgage lender and tell him, ask him or her, what is my final amount? And I just pay it in cash. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. So that shortage, because you didn't have enough in your escrow account to pay the bill, they still pay it for you, but now you're short. So to get it back up to where it needs to be, you can call them and say, "Hey, I see I have an escrow shortage after the last bill was paid. I'd like to pay that up in cash." And then they'll do that for you. Yeah.
Now, this is a really stupid question, but this would be, and I should know this answer, but I just want to verify it. If they put that on my mortgage, I'm paying interest on it.
That won't be a part of the interest. No, you only pay
No?
interest on your principal. Yeah. This
Okay.
is this is just an increase in the escrow account, which that doesn't cost anything. That
Okay,
doesn't
good.
make money or cost money. It's
Okay.
just think of it as a totally free savings account that goes towards these bills.
Okay, that's what
Um,
I wanted to know. Someone's going to ask me that question, I'm sure.
yep, yeah, yeah. They're not necessarily being charged. It's just the property tax bill went up and we don't have enough to cover it. And if we don't get it up to the point that it needs to be, we'll be
Yeah.
behind on the next one as well.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
then
I get
and
it.
then and then it snowballs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. This is very interesting. I knew Jaga was done.
Yeah.
And I heard that Cuyahoga was going to jump in, but you know what? And it was actually I thought it wasn't until like another month or so, but it almost is another month or so.
Yep. Basically, yeah.
Yeah, but I read about it in May, and here we are already up to when it's going to start. So that's why I wish there were more people on this call. Actually, I didn't know what you were going to talk about. I mostly got on because I was kind of thought it was funny that it's 95 degrees out and you're having a fireside chat.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll come up with maybe a more summary title for it.
I
Like
thought it was funny. I'm
a
like, hey,
beach
I'm going to go
vacay.
see. Yeah, I'm going to go see what he has to say. But this is very interesting because it's going to affect all of us,
Mhm.
and because there is no inventory right now, and there really isn't. If people like, yeah, there were 71 homes that just came on the market today in every community, north, south, west, east. I mean, what communities do you put in there? Do you put in, if you put in 15 or 16 up to 20 communities that you're looking for your buyers, yes, 71 houses did come on the market today.
Hmm.
But if you only work your area and you don't work a lot of referrals, there was not a lot at all
Yeah.
every day. Is there more? Yes. Is it good for us at this point? No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it really isn't. And that's my sweet little buyers. They're just sitting there for
Yeah.
months, months.
Yeah. Mine too. I've got a lot.
Terrible.
I've got just as many pre-approvals out right now as I did in 2021, which is crazy. I mean, that
Wow.
was very busy,
Very
but
busy.
way behind on contracts because the inventory is so tight. So there's
Yeah.
not nearly as much. So yeah, it's an interesting time. I feel like it's going to be hopefully that kind of last lull, slow summer that finally we can kind of get through this. Maybe interest rates get a little more favorable into the winter, and maybe people feel like they can start moving again. Because I think that's what needs to happen. We need more inventory to service the market. So
Well, and everybody needs to understand on the side note of today, what about the little first time home buyer who can't afford to go to Geauga County or Portage? For sure, Portage, for God's sake. Um, and they have beautiful homes there. I get it. But if you're a first time home buyer and you're only approved for 250,000, you might be buying in areas that aren't going to make you happy.
yeah, yeah,
I'm just being honest, and I don't care who's on here. Um, that's going to be an issue, and they're the ones that I feel bad for. The people that are upgrading, no, I shouldn't use that word, that want to move into something a little bigger. They've probably got a nice little bit of equity for the last 7 to 10 years. But the first time home buyer, they're going to struggle, and they just want a roof over their head with 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and a finished basement, just like their mom and dad bought.
yeah. There's just not much of that out there, and I think it's interesting too because investors are scooping those up left and right. So even if you wanted to buy them, you know, you're
Yeah,
kind of competing with a much bigger entity, someone
you
with a
are.
conventional loan or cash, and you can live there, but you're going to have to rent it, and
Yeah,
that's tough.
it is. And the big thing now is always to make sure you're in a good school system. And there's a lot of good ones, Chris, don't get me wrong. But there's just certain ones that the homes are affordable and the school system sucks. My own community, and again, I don't care who's on here. It's not like everyone doesn't know. My community, Walton Hills, uses Bedford schools.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, for some people, those schools are awesome. For others, it's a challenge
Hmm.
um, because it might not be where you wanted your child to go to school.
Yeah.
So, that's the biggest challenge right now. If you've got kids, school system is number one. It is number one. When you ask them their top 10, they don't go, I want a split level with 3 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. They're like, I need to be in Hudson, I need to be in Solon, I need to be in Twinsburg, I need to be in Glen Willow, which is really Solon, West Side, Olmsted Falls. They don't want to go to Parma. They don't want to go to Seven Hills. They want to go to a community that's going to give their kids the education that they deserve
Hmm.
for the money that they're paying for a house.
Yeah. Oh, my neighborhood is so strange. I live in University Heights,
Yeah,
and it's a mix. I mean, the prices have the floor has gone up. It
it
used to be that
has.
you could get a house for 150,000 in this neighborhood. That's probably fewer and farther between. Maybe it's real small. Maybe, it doesn't have air conditioning. It's pretty dated.
Yeah.
But I would say at least half of the people in University Heights are sending their kids to private school.
Yes,
It's
I got to tell you, that's true. My very dear friend, who's, and I mean, again, I'm saying this but well, I can say it 'cause she said it. Um, Her son is in sports. He's on the football team, University Heights, and they call him Marshmallow.
really,
Yeah, and he
yeah,
loves it. He doesn't care. She
yeah,
loves the school system. her kids love the school system. Every one of them will graduate.
Yeah.
So, you know what? For her, she's good to go. And she is a teacher in Solon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
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 I
But
it's the Heights High is interesting because there's tons of resources, and my wife is an education attorney and has worked with the school system before.
mhm,
It's just a such a large student body that you don't get the one-on-one attention that you would at a smaller school district.
yeah,
And because of that, if you're not self-motivated and or the parents aren't all over the kid making sure that they're in class, they can fall through the cracks and
they can.
just, you know, you could skip and your teacher might not know because you're one of hundreds of kids that are all over.
Yeah,
And it's interesting in such a large district like that.
it is. And same with Shaker.
Yeah.
You know, Shaker, look at really getting, I mean, if you really think about it, look at West Geauga. That school
Yeah.
system is growing like crazy. And
Yeah.
if you're buying a house and you can't get into Kenston, that's West Geauga is probably where you're going to go. That they've grown by leaps and bounds, you
Yeah.
know. But people, a lot of people, want, especially if they're professionals, they want to get out of the suburbs.
Yeah.
They want to go out where there's some land. They don't want to
Hmm.
take care of the land. You know, they pay someone to do that, put
Hmm.
in a pool, and their kids are going to West Geauga or, like you said, going to a private school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But
I couldn't believe it whenever we first moved here, how many and it's these are young kids. These are not high schoolers going to private school. I mean, there's a lot of those, but I mean, elementary school kids going to private school. It's
yeah,
really interesting. I went to public school. I grew up in a really small town in just south of Canton. I don't even know that there was a private school available in my community. So it was an interesting. I don't want to call it culture shock, but it was just certainly different than what I knew growing up. Growing up.
yeah. Well, and it's I think a lot of people are, especially if they're out of towners. But I have to tell you, even when they're out of towners, they're searching those schools. Who's number one? Who's number five? Who's number 10? I want to get in one of those systems.
Yeah,
I think you know why? Because honestly, Chris, with the price of homes right now, they really don't want to pay for private school if they can get into a good school system
I don't blame
and
them.
just pay the high taxes.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I mean, that's
I don't
what
either.
blows my mind. I see, in my neighborhood, people that have private school signs in front of their house. Meanwhile, it's probably a $350,000 colonial. I mean, the tax bill over here, 6, 7 grand a year, and you're
Oh,
sending your kid to private school. It's probably another 10 grand for private school. It's just like
yeah.
it's hard to believe, honestly.
It
Uh,
is hard to believe, but you know what? You just kind of you just do what you do.
right? Yeah, yeah,
You know, I know that I myself, I have to tell you, we moved to Solon so our kids would get a good education. And at times we really did live over our heads. We did.
yeah,
Because that was very important to me. And I didn't really want my kids to have to go to private school. I already knew they were going to get the education they needed and so on.
yeah.
So, I mean, we caught up with ourselves, you know what I mean?
Let's say you made it work. Yeah, absolutely.
We did make it work. We did make it work, but it's a lot different now. Although when I bought my first house, it was 18%. So is it different?
Yeah, I don't know how to do the math on that. I've heard some people say that given the appreciation, whenever you compare the two, it's
Mhm.
actually pretty close to the same.
I
Um,
read.
yeah.
Yeah, I read same
So
thing.
yeah,
So I can't do that 18%. Most people will be like, it's almost the same thing, Michael. And I'll be like, yeah, it probably is. Like
still,
I've never done the math, but like what was the last article that Drew and I actually talked about it when we did coffee talk a couple weeks ago? How if in 1999, if you waited for the interest rates to go down, you would have had to wait 21 years.
yeah, yep. I I've been throwing that around as well.
Yeah, me
Just
too.
because it's a really good point in how you kind of have to get off the fence even if you feel uncomfortable with the numbers. I mean, you
Yeah.
never want someone to buy more than they can afford, obviously, but you never know where the market's going to go or where interest rates are going to go or appreciation. I mean, one thing we can show is the chart of appreciation of value from like 1970 when they started, you know, databasing all of this
Yes.
through, I think the most recent data is 23. There's only like two times that a house ever depreciated, the average house ever depreciated, and it was in like 2008, which no surprise there,
No surprise there. Yeah.
in like the early 2000s for like a very small blip during the internet bubble. It was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, don't sell your house during that time and you'll be just fine. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah.
Exactly. And some people have to.
Yeah.
If you're getting transferred, different story. And most likely they're making sure that if they're moving you, the transfer is worth it.
Right. Yeah.
So you're okay if you have to lose a little bit of money. And if they're willing to pay the commission, which most of them are, and they're willing to move you and pack all your shit, you're in great shape,
Yeah.
you know? But
Yeah.
I forgot this isn't recorded. So I should have been a little more respectful on that. But oh well, people use
Yeah.
bad words. Um, but I'm leaving you because I need to prepare a dinner for a sick client.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you.
Well, they're like great people. And I told them I'd be the one bringing them dinner and dessert tonight. So, and old people eat early.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So I'm
Well,
going to leave you, but I don't know if you think anyone else is hopping on.
probably not at this point, but hey, if you can, if you mention anyone asks about it, let them know that this is kind of an open format and just like
Okay.
we had a quick topic and then we had a quick conversation. I like to keep these
Right.
to 30, 45 minutes. It's not a big commitment to a class or anything like that. If
Yeah.
anyone has questions, I'm pretty much just open to anything. So,
Yeah. Well, and believe me, you would have them, I think. I
yeah,
think everybody would have been as inquisitive as myself. And honestly, I don't even know what we were talking about. So
yeah.
I'm glad I hopped on to the fireplace chat.
Well, perfect. It was good seeing you, Michaeline.
Good to see you, Chris. See you soon.